In Psalm 6, the psalmist cries out to God and says, I am faint. If we've gone through any time of suffering or grief, we've known that feeling for ourselves. So we want to recommend some books today that are specifically going to help people who are walking through that time of feeling faint. The first one is written by Colin Smith, and I had a chance a couple of days ago to speak with Colin about his book, For All Who Grieve. Colin, thanks so much for joining us. You've written a book called For All Who Grieve, which includes case studies, example stories, real life stories that happened in your church. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, there was a couple in our congregation who experienced the very tragic and sudden loss of their son. And after I'd walked them through the funeral and the early stages of their grief, I asked them if they'd be interested in meeting with other couples in the church who had gone through the same experience. And so within a week of the funeral, we had in our front room a gathering of couples who all had in common the loss of a child. And I can hardly begin to explain what that experience was like as they shared what they had gone through and what they're going through still. And we began to open together the Book of Lamentations.
You then preached through that as in your church. Tell us why the Book of Lamentations. Why does this so much speak into these situations?
Well, it's amazing. I mean, God has given us a whole book of the Bible, Lamentations, that is about grief, sorrow, and loss. And, I've been a pastor for many years. I had never preached a series on the Book of Lamentations. And I'm coming to think to myself, why not? This is something that every person goes through. Every person experiences loss in multiple ways. And God has given us an entire book of the Bible that speaks to that. So For All That Grieve really brings together some of the stories of folks who were in the group, and then the great themes of the Book of Lamentation that speak to every experience of loss. And all of us go through that multiple times in the course of our lives.
When we're weary and burdened, it can be hard to turn to God's word, and yet that is where we find truth and life. Tumbling Skies by Matt Searles is a devotion through the Psalms designed specifically for those who are feeling weary in their Christian life. Maybe they're having dark times mentally or spiritually. These are wonderful gems that will fix our eyes on the God of the Bible, lift our spirits by the renewing of our mind, and transform us to bring us from dark times into, as it were, the morning. I've used them on numerous occasions, and I really commend them to you. The other is the Keswick devotion, Persevere, which again is getting us into the Bible when we feel we just can't carry on. Both designed to help people going through hard times get into God's word. Now, if you buy those two devotions with Colin's book, For All Who Grieve, they should be about £22. We're going to do the 3 for £9.99. If you're weary, if you're burdened, turn to God's word and rejoice in all that he's done for you.